Machexis, hello. My name is Crystal Blue. I am a tribal citizen of Ione Band of Miwok Indians, and I serve as the Deputy Director for Tribal Affairs and the Tribal Liaison for the California Department of Conservation. Thank you for joining our department and our California Geologic Energy Management Division, also known as CalGEM, for this recording for Kern County tribes regarding Senate Bill 237 and the changes taking place in Kern County beginning on January 1st, 2026 for oil and gas permitting. Next slide, please. As for today's agenda, Director Jennifer Lucchesi will take a moment to introduce herself and provide some context. Then CalGEM Central District Deputy Chris Jones will provide an overview of SB 237. And then finally, we'll close out our presentations with CalGEM's CEQA environmental scientist, Mary Moraz, who will provide an overview on the CEQA process and explain how CalGEM will transition from CEQA lead agency to responsible agency and what that means. Next slide, please. All right, now I'd like to take a moment to introduce Director Jennifer Lucchesi. Jennifer?
Thank thank you, Crystal, and hello. My name is Jennifer Lucchesi. I'm the Director of the Department of Conservation. Thank you for your time. I will be sharing context and insights on the state's petroleum strategy as part of our clean energy transition and how that work led to the governor signing SB 237 as part of the state's climate and energy affordability legislative package. We are at a critical moment in our energy evolution, referred to by academics as the mid-transition phase of our energy transition. This is a phase where the state must simultaneously continue supporting the rapid expansion of new, clean alternative fuels while we actively manage a gradual, responsible phase down of the incumbent legacy fossil fuel systems that millions of Californians will continue to depend on for years to come. This particular phase of the transition presents a very unique challenges, as well as opportunities to advance our energy and climate goals through prioritizing Californians and protecting public health and safety and the environment. Our goal is to ensure Californians have access to a safe, affordable, and reliable supply of transportation fuels during the transition. As you may know, the state held a couple of legislative special sessions in 2023 and 2024 that focused on refineries and what consumers pay at the gas pump. As part of those special sessions, the legislature gave authority to the Energy Commission to gain more transparency into the oil and gas supply ecosystem. Specifically, the legislature required all refineries in California to provide sufficient notice, at least 1 year, if the refinery intended to close down. With that advance notice requirement, the California Energy Commission received notices at the end of 2024 and early 2025 that 2 of the remaining refineries in the state plan to shut down, including one in Wilmington, Los Angeles, and one in Benicia along San Francisco Bay. Given the importance of refineries to California's transportation fuels market and the affordability issues faced by many Californians, an all-hands-on-deck effort led by the Vice Chair, Siva Gunda of the Energy Commission, was initiated. A primary focus, among others, was to ground truth assertions and assumptions related to the upstream segment of the oil and gas supply. This led to Vice Chair Gunda's recommendations described in the June 27, 2025 letter to Governor Newsom. The governor directed the vice chair to redouble the state's efforts to work closely with refiners on short and long-term planning to help ensure that Californians continue to have access to a safe, affordable, and reliable supply of transportation fuels, and that refiners continue to see the value in serving the California market, especially as demand for fossil fuels continues its decline over the coming decades. The Vice Chair's recommendations were comprehensive and identified policy and administrative actions directed at each sector of the oil and gas ecosystem. Of particular note, it was clear one of the most important and immediate policy actions had to include stabilizing upstream oil production. Over the past 5 years, production has significantly declined, more than the natural decline rate, primarily due to protracted CEQA litigation involving Kern County's oil and gas ordinance and its associated environmental impact report. This protracted litigation, lasting over 10 years, created significant uncertainty in the regulatory environment and led to a decline in permitting and production. Given this problem statement, the legislature, through SB 237, deemed the Kern County Second Supplemental EIR sufficient and valid under CEQA in order to facilitate permits for new oil and gas wells. The Kern County EIR validation was passed by the legislature and signed into law by the governor as SB 237. This means that as new drill permit applications are processed by CalGEM, any permits issued have been deemed by the legislature to have met the legal requirements of CEQA, including AB 52 consultation requirements. And no further CEQA compliance, including AB 52 consultation or litigation, is allowed. With that said, the department and CalGEM are committed to meaningful engagement and continuous communication in SB 237's implementation. In addition to validating the Kern County SSEIR, SB 237 also codifies the state's regulation banning well stimulation treatments, or fracking, and strengthens and affirms requirements for oil spill prevention, health protection zones, coastal development permits, and safety testing for oil pipelines. In summary, while California leads the nation in the adoption of clean energy technology, millions of Californians continue to depend on fossil fuels for their day-to-day transportation needs. The state is taking a comprehensive approach to stabilizing the petroleum market system, building on critical environmental protection and public health policies. As the state's oil and gas regulator, SB 237 helps support the managed transition strategy, stabilize crude oil production in California, and supply in-state refineries while ensuring that production is consistent with critical health and environmental protections. We are in this mid-transition phase because of California's bold and actionable climate leadership. This is just the beginning of our work in this mid-transition phase, and there are a lot of significant conversations to be had and policy decisions to be made. We hope to continue to build relationships with you and other California tribes and keep our lines of communication open and productive during this mid-transition work, so your voices are heard and can inform critical policy decisions. With the work the state has done over this past year, we now have a solid foundation to build on this unique opportunity to exemplify California's climate and energy leadership by meeting the energy needs of the state through this transition, prioritizing the consumer, and protecting public health and safety and the environment. Thank you. Crystal?
Thank you, Director Lucchesi, for providing that context. Now, Chris Jones will provide some insight into Senate Bill 237. Chris?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Jones. I'm CalGEM's Central District Deputy located in Bakersfield. And I'll go over how our district and CalGEM are implementing this new law. Next slide, please. So some overview highlights of Senate Bill 237. As Jennifer mentioned, it validates Kern County's EIR for their Kern County ordinance with respect to CEQA, and that includes making it sufficient for responsible agency review. So the law now makes Kern County the lead agency for the area it covers, and it makes CalGEM the responsible agency with respect to CEQA. The law also imposes some mitigations to address potential environmental impacts, and the activities that it includes are drilling, other work on existing wells, and injection projects. However, it does not include all of Kern County. I'll show you a map on the next slide, but it excludes specific areas such as within any city limits, on federal land, and within health protection zones, which, as you may know, are areas around sensitive receptors such as homes, businesses open to the public, parks, and other important resources. The law also limits the quantity of permits to drill new wells that CalGEM can issue in any given calendar year. And the limit is initially set at 2,000 permits for new wells per year. However, it does allow for the California Energy Commission to potentially increase that limit if they find it necessary to meet the supply for in-state refinery demand. The law does not go on in perpetuity. It starts on January 1st of 2026, and it ends at the end of 2035. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is a map of the area covered by SB 237 and the Kern County EIR. So this is a map of Kern County, and the black box shown on the map is the area which is the outside limit of the EIR area covered by SB 237. So all the tan color you see within that black box are covered by SB 237, and all the reddish areas are excluded from it. Those reddish areas, as I mentioned, are federal land within any city limits and health protection zones. Next slide, please. This next map is essentially the same as the prior map. Instead of a black boundary for the SB 237 area, there's now a red boundary, and the tan area is now blue. And the reddish areas are green. So the green areas are excluded from SB 237. The blue areas are covered. And the addition to this map are the oil fields in Kern County. And those are the yellow boxes with the greenish yellow interior. And so those areas, if they don't overlap with one of the dark green areas, are covered by SB 237. And as you can see, there are several oil fields within Kern County that are covered. Next slide, please. So all of the permits to drill new wells or to do other works on wells covered by SB 237 will be handled within our central district office in Bakersfield. And we call these applications to do work on wells or drill wells notices of intention, or NOIs for short. And these NOIs that are covered by SB 237 and the Kern Ordinance are some of the most straightforward that we process in our district or in CalGEM. And we'll start off by doing a completeness check to make sure that the oil company has submitted all the information required by law and regulations. And then we'll check it against SB 1137. And that means we will look to see if it is within a health protection zone. If it is, the county would not have issued a job card, which is how they document their approval. However, we will do a double check to make sure that it's not within a health protection zone, especially since health protection zone boundaries can change from time to time due to new construction or other work. If it is within a health protection zone, we'll kick it out of this process and it will go through a more extensive review. If we continue and the NOI is eligible under SB 237, we will next take care of our CEQA responsible agency requirements, and we do that under the guidance of CalGEM's CEQA program. Next, we'll evaluate the NOI on its technical merits, and if everything is in order, we will draft conditions for the permit that the operator must comply with in order to meet state law and regulations. Finally, we will finalize the permit and issue it to the operator if we get to the step. Under normal circumstances, we anticipate that it will take 1 to 2 weeks between when CalGEM receives an NOI with a job card from the county until we issue a permit. If we get a surge of NOIs, that time may last longer. Next slide, please. There are some additional considerations involved. The county, as I mentioned, needs to issue job cards to indicate that the operator has complied with their ordinance, and that's done by the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department. So CalGEM has been coordinating closely with them so that we have similar expectations and can work together smoothly for any challenges that arise. The law also contains a different permit limit than the Kern County Ordinance contains. As I mentioned, CalGEM can issue up to 2,000 permits to drill new wells in any calendar year, unless the California Energy Commission increases that limit. Whereas the Kern County Ordinance allows the county to issue up to 2,697 job cards in a year. However, we do not see this as being a problem because we will closely track to ensure that CalGEM does not issue over our limit. And also there's generally a lag time between when the county issues its job cards and when an operator oil company submits that job card to CalGEM with an NOI. And so that lag time may mean that the county issues more job cards in a year than CalGEM receives NOIs. Either way, we'll make sure we don't exceed our limit. One potential complication is if oil companies were to submit a large package of NOIs where some of them are covered by SB 237 and some of them are not. In that case, we would need to consult with our CalGEM CEQA program to see how we can handle that package. And that covers the information I would like to share with you regarding how our office and CalGEM will be implementing SB 237. And I will hand it back to Crystal.
Thank you, Chris. Mary Moraz from the CEQA program will now provide background on CalGEM moving from CEQA lead agency to responsible agency under 237. Mary?
Hi, yeah, thank you, Crystal. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. When SB 237 takes effect beginning January of 2026, the bill reinstates Kern County as a CEQA lead agency for oil and gas projects. This will shift CalGEM from a lead agency role to a responsible agency role, and CalGEM will no longer be able to conduct lead agency tribal consultations under AB 52. As a responsible agency, CalGEM will be required to rely on Kern County's CEQA document and review projects only within CalGEM's permitting authority. CEQA and SB 237 don't provide a process for conducting tribal consultation as a responsible agency. Next slide, please. The Kern County SSR EIR mitigation measures address cultural and archaeological topics in the cultural and paleontological resources section of their CEQA document. Those protections include avoiding and preserving resources in place during project activities, culturally appropriate management and treatment if impacts occur, and procedures for inadvertent discoveries of tribal remains or artifacts. Next slide, please. We are providing direct links to the section of the Kern County SSR EIR, which goes into detail about the cultural and archaeological topics mentioned previously and the mitigation measures, as well as additional link about the Kern County SSR EIR, which can also be found by going to the Kern County Oil and Gas Permitting webpage, where they have more information on the Kern SSR EIR. And with that, I will hand it back to Crystal Blue.
Thank you, Mary. Next slide, please. All right, so the department and CalGEM are committed to building our relationships with tribes and supporting meaningful and proactive tribal engagement in Kern County and beyond. We really strive to continue to build good and trusting partnerships with you all and want to ensure that we respond to tribal input with care, clarity, and follow through. Please know that I, as the department's tribal liaison, am always here as a resource to tribes. And if you have any questions that may arise during SB 237's implementation, please feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you all with a CalGEM team member to better assist you or answer your questions. Next slide, please. Tangi Kamu, thank you. As we wrap up, I'd again like to thank you all for watching this recording to learn more about SB 237 and its implementation come the new year. Please know that the department and CalGEM remain committed to ongoing collaboration with you all. And again, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need any support. Thank you and take care.